Pre-production Red Bull. Today I want us to explore the idea of separating work programming from play programming. I want to talk about how you can become more productive and improve faster by doing silly side projects. Lately, I've been intentionally trying to do a lot more silly experiments. I didn't always do this, so I want to talk about some things that led me up to this point. When I started programming, it was purely because it was something that I wanted to do. I can't put exactly into words what was driving me, but it definitely came from inside me somehow. Nobody told me to start programming. I just did. I don't know, it was some kind of inner fire. Over time, I got good at programming, and it turned out that other people wanted programming done and they were willing to pay money for it. Nice! But the problem was that when I started doing programming because others wanted me to, the inner fire that had gotten me into programming from the first place disappeared. It was weird because the very same programming, the exact same programming that I previously had been doing for fun and for relaxation when I came home was now like this horrible homework. I didn't know it back then, but I now know that there is a term in psychology for this. It's called the over-justification effect. It's when an external incentive is added to a previously unrewarded activity, and that shifts the motivation from inner motivation to outer motivation, and that undermines the pre-existing inner motivation. To stay motivated, I started doing, how do I describe this? Extracurricular work. I started doing work that was not asked of me, that I thought was a good idea. It could be extra features, refactorings, using new tools, so building new tools, installing new editor plugins, learning new shortcuts, tweaking the build system, and that kind of thing. And it was good for both my motivation and growth. My inner fire returned and I was learning and growing because of the new things that I was constantly trying out. However, my actual work output suffered for it. In some cases, the extracurricular activities were appreciated by the customer or the end user, but mostly, to be honest, they just made me less focused on shipping what people were actually asking for. I was sort of like this plumber who, instead of just replacing a leaking pipe, went out and replaced the plumbing in the entire house and then went in and painted it in rainbow colors. The end user didn't get any happier, and I spent a lot of time on something that should just have taken a fraction of the time. Instead, what I've tried to do lately is to define and separate the concepts of work and play programming. I still consider them both important, but I try to no longer mix them. Work programming is programming that I do because there is an external incentive. External incentives, that's normally money, but it might also be things like plain guilt. For instance, on Sundays, I sometimes put out an episode just because I know that you people are awaiting one. Play programming, on the other hand, is programming that I do even though there is no external incentive at all. I do it only because I think it's worthwhile. Nowadays, I try to keep play programming completely out of work projects. And the opposite is also true. I try to keep work programming out of play programming. I've had play programming projects become work several times. FunFunFunction is actually a great example of that. It was initially something that I did just for play, but that turned into work because there was a big demand for it. And don't get me wrong, I really like doing these videos and I like that they are successful, but they are no longer play. And that is why I've started to do side projects that are intentionally silly. And by silly, I mean that they have no obvious business value and no obvious market or anything like that. That way, there's less risk of them sliding into work mode. The idea with this is to allow me to switch between the mode where I'm a professional, focused on shipping what the customer wants, and the mad scientist mode where I'm focused on doing the things that I would like to see done. And that switching keeps me motivated, growing and having fun while still being fed and having a focus on output and helping people. That's it! Make sure that you keep play out of your work, but make sure that you do play a lot. And make sure that your play is intentionally silly so that it doesn't accidentally become work. You have watched an episode of FunFunFunction, a weekly show where we try to become more confident and excited about programming by exploring old wisdom, wild ideas, and having fun. If you are new to FunFunFunction, welcome. Please introduce yourself down below. Tell us what kind of programmer you are and how you would like to improve. Speaking of improving, do not miss out on the next episode. Follow me on Twitter at mpjme. Until next Monday, stay curious.